In 2022, the CIA approached President Biden and told him that there was a 50% chance or higher that Russia would deploy nuclear weapons if it began to lose in Ukraine. That's concerning. So naturally, what happened was a major escalation where the United States and all of its allies started dumping weapons and material into Ukraine in order to try to do whatever possible in order to cause Russia to start to lose. If you say that might be a little bit of reckless endangerment by our president for the American people as well as the people in Europe and, well, the people in the world, you'd be absolutely correct. Friends, we're going to be diving into this. What is actually happening with nuclear weapons out there? And the threat is growing even worse today. We're hearing a lot of people in the know saying that we have a lot to be concerned about. And the thing that's most concerning is how Americans are completely oblivious to, by and large. Now, maybe not you and I, but most people in the United States are completely oblivious to the threat that is looming. Now, I know a bunch of you are going to say, well, if nuclear war happens, well, that's just the end of everything, so who cares anyway? And the answer to that is, well, that's not how nuclear war works. Nuclear war will be very survivable if you take steps and you get a little bit lucky. So if you're in a downtown urban area, you might have more to be concerned about. If you're right next to a military base, you have more to be concerned about for sure. But if you're not near those things in immediate close proximity, there are things that you're probably going to be able to do in order to increase your survivability and to decrease the amount of impact that's going to have on you. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and we cover not only the news, but we also cover a bit practically about what you can do about it. And we'll cover a few of those things today. But let's focus in on the provocations that the United States are giving to Russia right now. The fact that we are flying nuclear-capable fighter jets that are stealth is concerning to Russia, and let's just say quite a bit provocative. Jazz musician Dexter Gordon once said, "In nuclear war, all men are cremated equal." Hopefully not. Hopefully that's not the case. But you may have missed it. In the news, just over the last couple months and really coming out in the last number of weeks, has been that the F-35, the F-35A, has now been given clearance to be nuclear capable. So basically, F-35As can now carry nuclear ordnance. They can carry the B-61-12, which can be a 0.3 kiloton weapon up to a 50 kiloton weapon. Just for information's sake, the Hiroshima bomb was 16 kilotons, so this can be roughly 3 times as powerful as the Hiroshima bomb, and that can go into the bomb bay of a F-35. I believe, and I'm not an expert on this, but maybe you guys can let me know down in the comments if I'm correct or not, but I believe that the F-35 can carry multiple. So let's just imagine, let's just put your Russian thinking caps on, your Russian winter hats with the flaps and everything like that. You'll either look like a Canadian or a Russian. And just imagine with me, if you will, you have your country surrounded by NATO bases, right? In the Pacific, you have American and Japanese and Korean fighter jets, F-35s, and nuclear-capable other bombers and such like that are right off the coast of Russia. We have U.S. bases in Korea. We have U.S. bases in Japan. We got U.S. bases all over the place out there in the Pacific. Then you go to Europe, and there's NATO bases with nuclear-capable fighter jets and bombers all over Europe. The fact is that when you start looking at like Estonia, Latvia, even Finland, you're looking at the capability for U.S. fighter aircraft or missiles to penetrate Russian airspace and bring a nuclear detonation within under 5 minutes to the capital of Moscow. Now, I know everyone's like, Russia's the evil bad guys. And I'm not going to defend their government. I mean, I'm terrified to go to the country, and I have been for quite some time. Everyone else back when I was working overseas in 2008 or whatever, they're like, oh, just fly through Russia. It's cheaper. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I read a few books that definitely gave me that impression and gave me just, when I saw how, just how the justice system works, there, I was pretty terrified of how they make Americans disappear into the system, and they have for many years. And I was just like, no thanks, I'll land somewhere else. I'll go somewhere else. So I have not been a fan of them for a very long time. But I want us to at least just kind of see things from their perspective. Russia isn't putting military bases in Canada and air bases in Mexico. They're not staging their missiles in Cuba. They're not putting their missiles right up, basically in South Carolina, be more like North Carolina. Imagine Russian missiles in North Carolina threatening Washington, D.C. That would be kind of a little bit kind of what we're looking like on the map, okay? The fact is that they have a good justification for saying that they feel surrounded. They feel like they're being threatened by all of... I mean, look at a map where the United States is, and then look on a map where Russia is, and then you see all these military bases like all around Russia. Like, the United States is over here. The United States isn't protecting its border. The United States isn't like defending Mexico and Canada and its allies that are nearby. No. The United States is defending like Finland and Estonia and countries like right up against the border. It's like, why are you allied with them? Like, the chances of Estonia aiding the United States when the United States gets attacked is zero. It's just zero. Like, if Mexico decides to invade, which, funny thing about that, are Estonian troops going to be deployed to push them out? No. Why is it that all of our alliances work one way and don't seem to be anything about defending the United States? They're all about attacking our enemies. Same thing with China. I mean, we're deploying our ships, our missiles, our air bases as close as we can to China. I mean, can you imagine if China was doing the same thing to us? We're sailing our ships like right through their territory, right? We're saying, here's your territorial waters, and we're going to bring our ship like right next to the territorial waters. Can you imagine if the Chinese aircraft carrier decided to park itself off the coast of California? Just sailing around like just outside territorial waters? Finding places where the Canadian and U.S. border kind of make it technically international waters, and then they start sailing their Navy ships through there. Now, again, I am not defending China in any way, shape, or form, but can you see how maybe the rest of the world would see the United States as an aggressor? And then we have these stealth fighter jets that people have a hard time seeing on radar, and from someone else's perspective, they look like they can teleport to basically anywhere. Do you think that might kind of freak some people out when we have air bases with F-35s, and then we start putting nukes on F-35s, and they can't see them very well? You think that might get people a little bit nervous? They see a little flash on their radar screen and they start shooting at stuff that might be civilian airliners because they thought they saw something flying over their country that shouldn't be there. This could definitely lead to tragedy. This could definitely lead to tensions. And I would not be surprised. In fact, I have been surprised that Russia hasn't deployed nuclear weapons to Cuba again. Now, maybe Cuba is just like, we're not signing up for that. We don't want to be on the receiving end of the United States. But you think that Russia hasn't at least tried to talk to Cuba about that? About doing the exact same thing to the United States that the United States is doing to them? That's definitely probably been in consideration and discussed. I think that it's more on the Cuba side, like, we're not doing that. We're not going there. We want to scream death to America in the streets, but we don't want to actually bring death from America to us. So the United States is going around bullying everybody that it can, finding the few people out there in the world that will push back a little bit, and then starting to scream bloody murder about them. They're the problem. They're evil. And go look into the history of that war in Eastern Europe and just look into the history of that. Read both sides of it, and I think you'll see pretty clearly the United States is like, there's no evidence whatsoever that we ever did anything wrong. You just love that phrase, there's no evidence. Whenever you hear that, the person saying it is lying, because it's just the phrase that's always used when they're lying, right? There's nothing to suggest. No evidence. No. Friends, the United States has absolutely been causing problems all around the world, for freedom and such. But it's starting to blow back on us. Because while we've been out there defending democracy for everybody out there, we've made a lot of enemies. And when you look at it from their perspective, it's kind of justified. We promised that NATO would not move east. And NATO has moved east. Now the United States we will not invade Russia. Well, how much credence should Russia really give to anything the United States says? Because the United States has said so many things over the years that have clearly just been completely written off. The United States said, we will never send tanks to Eastern Europe, to the conflict there. We will never send fighter jets. And yet, we're doing both of those right now. We said we'd never give them long-range missiles. We're doing that. We said we'd never deploy NATO troops to the ground. And yet, we've been caught red-handed doing that as well. They're not combat troops. Okay. But we still have troops there. And when you look at everything that we've said, it seems like we're doing all of the things that we said we'd never do. So why in the world would anyone believe the United States when they say, we won't go any further than this? No, they know that the only thing they can do in order to get the United States to back off is go set something on fire somewhere else in the world. Yeah. Suddenly, the United States isn't so interested in the conflict in Eastern Europe. Why? Because something else caught fire down in the Middle East. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? And if Russia really feels like we're coming after them, they might try to get their friend over in the South China Sea to set something on fire. Friends, when these allies, these axis of not wanting to be pushed around by the United States anymore, start to realize that if they can just start setting fires all around the globe and basically get the United States carriers going in a loop, traveling from one fire to the next fire, and by the time it gets to that fire goes out and another fire starts up somewhere else, like a game of musical chairs kind of thing. It's like, that sounds silly, but then you look at the map, you look at what's happening in the world, and you're going, it seems like that's basically the strategy we're looking at here now. Things are catching fire and blowing up around the world, and then they seem to go out just as our Navy ships get there. And of course, the Navy proponents and the U.S. military proponents and the military-industrial complex would say, see, it's working. When our ships arrive, the thing goes out. Of course, something else catches fire, something else blows up somewhere else, and by the time they get there, it goes out. So, all right, friends, that's what's going on out there. Nuclear war could be at our doorstep. Remember, if nuclear war happens, what will most likely happen is it will be limited to a region. If Russia starts using nuclear weapons on that country in Eastern Europe, it will probably be confined, at least initially, there. I know people are like, well, it would immediately escalate into everyone nuking each other's cities. But there really isn't much reason to nuke each other's cities unless you're just really, really mad at each other, okay? That doesn't prove like a strategic move. What they will be trying to do is knock out each other's nuclear weapons. That would be a way to hit back hard and to really send a message. And at the same time, if you can knock out some of their launchers, that will also mean that it's going to make it harder for them to hit back at you. So that would be probably what will happen. If the United States wants to send a very strong message, it may try taking out nuclear launchers, land-based ones or potentially sea-based ones. The United States is going to have a hard time attacking the sea-based nuclear launchers, on Russian submarines, but that would definitely be something they'd want to do if they could. And then if Russia gets really mad at the United States, they might try to attack the nuclear sites of the United States. So if you're living near Minuteman sites inside the continental United States, that is potentially a military target that could be hit. If you are near command and control centers, like NORAD in Colorado, you might be in danger or being downwind of that. If you are near Air Force bases, especially ones that do have nuclear weapons facilities. If you're near naval yards or places where American submarines visit, those will be potentially major targets. Will the Russians come and just start nuking our cities? Probably not. Probably not. Why would they do that? If they were going to do something to a city, they'd probably want to EMP it and then watch the city tear itself apart. Because that would tie up a lot more American military personnel, a lot more resources than it would if they actually destroy the city. So just like how in the military they actually prefer to wound enemy soldiers, because then it takes a lot more resources from the enemy to deal with a wounded person than it is to deal with someone who has perished, right? So the same kind of thought process there. They're trying to take out the other's military with their nuclear weapons, not trying to take out citizens, which really don't really affect the war in any grand scheme of things. Now, I know that idea, well, they'll be so terrified they'll surrender. Friends, if any country nuked an American city or multiple American cities, we wouldn't surrender. We just get really, really mad. And the same thing goes for most other countries. If you nuke their cities, they're going to get really mad. So the whole, well, that will teach them, it doesn't really hold up any weight. The psychological benefit of that just isn't there. Unless you're going to be in an all-out long-term war, that's not really that smart. So be aware of what nuclear facilities are around you. Be aware of what military facilities are around you. And make sure you kind of check those wind charts. Where is the prevailing wind? And are you generally downwind of those sites? Because those sites would probably have a lot more radioactive fallout than other places. And just kind of keep that in mind in your planning. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. If you want, let me know down in the comments what you think. And I will see you guys in the next video. If you want to check that out, there's one right up here. I'll see you there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.